Attack series, a quick overview of attack. Now, MITRE ATT&CK's mission is to solve problems to make the world safer. It does this by bringing the community together to create effective cybersecurity knowledge base that focuses on the adversary's tactics and techniques based on real-world observations. Now, this insight is used to create specific threat models and methodologies used in private and public sector organizations, as well as within the cybersecurity products themselves and the service community at large. It's open and available at no charge. All right, let's check this out. We're at the main page of MITRE here. Now, we've got these matrices that we're going to look at, and it focuses on very specific areas around enterprise, perhaps Windows and Mac OS. You've got Linux and cloud is broken up by IaaS and SaaS and Google Workspace and a couple others. You've got networking containers. Then you've got mobile that includes Android and iOS, and then ICS for industrial control systems. Each one of these are a little more focused on how the adversary goes about compromising an organization. Now, tactics, this represents the why of the attack. Now, this is the adversary's tactical goal. This is the reason why they're performing a specific action. So an example of this, an adversary is trying to gather information about the organization and plan to use it for future operations. That's reconnaissance. You've got resource development, initial access, execution, persistence, and it goes on. And each one of these then would contain techniques. Now, techniques and sub-techniques are the how. This is how they're going to achieve those goals. So if they're trying to achieve credential access, then there's going to be certain steps required in order to achieve that outcome. Now, this is an example of boot or logon auto start execution. That's the technique. It also includes persistence and privilege escalation. It talks about the operating system that's included. They also have these sub-techniques that are specific to drive that outcome. Now, each one of these provides a tremendous amount of detail. Talks about the procedure examples, includes mitigations, detections. So this particular attack is very difficult to mitigate against. But there's a couple of detection capabilities that are highlighted here, as well as some references that you can refer to get better insight to exactly how an adversary may go about leveraging this particular technique / sub-technique. We've got data sources. This includes information that is collected by sensors and logs. They help identify specific properties and values of data source relevant to attack, and this builds the technique and sub-technique. So you can see Active Directory, application log, assets, certificates, and then you've got mitigations. So it's good to understand all of that things the adversary can do to compromise the environment, but we also need to understand how to mitigate that. And then we've got groups. So these are the adversarial groups that have been identified. And you can research each one of these to understand the tactics and techniques that they use and the organizations they typically go after. You can build out your controls and detection capabilities to help minimize the risk from that particular adversary. Now, this is an example of Deep Panda. It talks about where they go after, the details of software, etc. Now, software tools that are used, whether they be commercial, operating system, utilities, and so on, that the adversary is going to leverage. You have campaigns. These are where we track intrusion activities using various methodologies. This includes things like operations, intrusion sets, and campaigns. We've got lots of resources in the tool itself. There's blogs, you can contribute, and you can search. So if you're in a specific vertical or looking for a specific group, you can start typing in what it is that you're looking for, and it'll start populating, and you can pivot into one of those search criterias that you've created and very quickly get a good understanding what it is that you're looking for. Now, as we scroll down here, let's check out APT 39, and we can see that it's got all the details around techniques used, associated group descriptions, but we can actually launch this into Navigator. We're going to get into this a little bit later, but it highlights the tactics and techniques that this particular adversary uses. And so now what I can do is get a good understanding of how the adversary operates, and based on that information, I can then determine the controls I have in my environment that'll help mitigate that risk. And where I don't have controls, I'd either shore them up or ensure I've got detection capabilities to identify if an adversary does take advantage of that particular tactic and technique within the organization. Really cool stuff to help you build out threat-informed defense.